Hi guys. How's everyone doing tonight? I said, how's everyone doing? All right. Yeah, that's as good as it's gonna get. Barber pose. So I've been riding my bicycle a lot lately, but it's Muni Diaries, so why don't we put a pin in that? I've done this show a few times. Some of you have seen me, some of you haven't. And that, can't tell if that came from backstage or not. Yeah, it's her backstage. Every time I'm asked to do this, it kind of forces me to contemplate my history with Muni and my history in the city, because I think the two are kind of intrinsically linked. And I've lived here I moved here in 2000 for the first time, right before the last .com bubble burst. Fingers crossed. But actually, the first time that I rode Muni was before that. The first time I rode Muni was in 1998, May of 1998, and we'll get to why I know that so specifically in a minute. I took a trip to San Francisco. I visited San Francisco for the first time with my mother. We grew up in Southern California together. I say because she had me when she was 21, so and we were together for the first 8 years by ourselves, and then we weren't anymore because she made adult decisions and brought someone else into our relationship. And after that, our relationship had started to splinter, and mixed with things like my burgeoning adolescent homosexuality and her poor life decisions, getting married and being happy for herself. We were really at like a breaking point by 1998, and she decided that a trip to San Francisco, perhaps she was onto something, was the best way to repair that relationship. And I repaid her by being like a super big dick the entire weekend. I continue to be to this day, but like we're working on it. And I decided in between all of our inspirational bonding time that I really wanted to see Godzilla. Like I really wanted to see Godzilla, and I mean the Roland, I think it was Roland Emmerich. It was definitely Matthew Broderick, and it was certainly 1998. If anyone has ever seen that film. And this was in 1988. This is pre-Metreon, pre-Westfield Center, owned by Australians. Don't trust it. And the hotel concierge told us, oh yeah, it's super simple. You just take the bus and you go out to the Coronet, which, did anybody ever, it was like 3 people. Has anybody lived here longer than 2 years? Anyway, the Coronet is like far, like Arguello and Geary. And we took this bus together, and it should also be noted that my mother was like 8 months pregnant with the being that would become my sister, who just got into West Point, which is like, yay, yay, but like free law school, so what are you gonna do? Anyway, so I was being super bitchy, my mother was being super pregnant, and we were going to go see a super reptile in the outer Richmond. And like my first exposure to Muni was riding the 38. Yeah, like to all you. Like my first, second, and like 1000th experience. All of my stories are on the 38 for some reason, because it's the lifeblood and it's awful. But like we were riding it out, and we got to the Richmond on what I didn't know was like the longest bus ride a human could take up until that point. And we got to a crosswalk, and an old lady, and we were sat right up front because my mother, as mentioned, super pregnant. We got to the front, we got to a crosswalk, and this old lady with a walker was crossing the street, and the Muni driver was having none of it. And it got to the point where she was basically plumb in front of the bus and not moving fast enough. And the Muni driver decided to like rev the engine, or like whatever the equivalent on a bus is, which just amounts to lurching the bus towards a 90-year-old woman crossing the street. Like twice. And this was my first exposure to San Francisco, and I was young, and it was 1998, and I just wanted to see Matthew Broderick, and I was like, bitches be crazy in the city. And what he did not do was run over the old lady, which was a plus. What he did do was proceed to flip the old lady off, which was a minus. And then she proceeded to beat the shit out of the front of the bus with the walker. At which point the guy just like opened the door and was like, if anybody would like to depart, now's your chance. And luckily we were like 7 blocks away, so I was like, Mom, we can totally walk. And she was like, fucking fine. I don't come out good in that story. 2 years later, I moved to the city, and again, I would ride the 38 late at night. This continuing the trend of my life evolving with Muni. I would get off of BART and board this bus that my friend told me to board and take it all the way out to the Presidio in the dead of night. And that was the trip that I decided I have to move to San Francisco somehow. So like the 38 ended up being incredibly generous to me and continues to be. Years later, I would be living in the city and just not quite as starry-eyed, but also very still into the bus. And I used to try to tip the 38 drivers because I'm from Southern California and I was moving to the big city and I learned about tipping culture and I was like, service, like a wonderful job, and like would hand them like a $5 bill and they would look at me and be like, child, do not give me that money, like what are you doing? They like thought I was undercover or something. And so I went from this complete no knowledge to this complete like euphoria knowledge where the buses were just the greatest thing in the world, to several years later, I'm standing in front of the 38 and it's at a red light and the door is closed and the driver is doing that like just like she knew I was there. She knew I was there and she hated me. She wouldn't open the door. I was like, I have to go to work in the morning. Has this ever happened to anybody? Yes. Yeah, and they're just pretending you don't exist? Right. So a couple things happen all at once. Sorry. A couple stories here. So the light turns green. She decides she is not letting me in. And I decide, not today, Satan, not today. Like, I am going to fucking get you. I'm going to get you. And this is the 38, mind you. Complicated relationship. I'm at Geary and Sutter. And it is a rapid. It is a 38R. And it is moving towards downtown, and I have to get to work. Yeah. I'm glad you know, because I do too. And the next stop is Fillmore. And I did not run at this point. I have been running marathons since. Thank you for noticing. But I said, fuck this bitch, I am getting this bus. And that bus takes off, and so do I. And it does not stop at Steiner, but there's a red light, so it stops and I do not. And I am keeping pace with this bus, and at this point we are just like it's happening. And we get to Fillmore, and they stop, and the back door opens, and people start going on the back door, and I'm like, fuck that back door. Fuck that middle door. Coming for your fucking front door, lady. And I get on the front door, and I do not look great. Sweating, heaving, just like vodka is probably coming out of my eyeballs at that point because whatever, life choices. And I give her my $2 and sit in the first seat you can sit in. And then proceed to take it to Montgomery. Just eyeballing this woman. She's eyeballing me through the mirror, and we just did not speak. And then I did not ride the bus for another 2 months because I was afraid I would see her again, but I thought my point was made. You know, the 38 truly is the gift that keeps on giving. It welcomed me into this city. Last year, my husband and I were on the 38. Sorry, ladies. He liked it, so he put a ring on it. Yeah, I know, right? Take pictures if you want. It's fine. See me after the show. And we're standing because we're like common people that are not gonna like hog the seats. We're good. Common. What does that even mean? Decent people, I guess is the word I was going for. And there's a woman is sitting there and she is sizing us up. And just like a nice middle-aged white woman, just like giving us the eyeballs. And we're just like kind of hanging out next to each other. And I say when we get to Van Ness, hey hun, this is our stop. And that's what I say, sounding the way I sound, just normally. And that was apparently the straw that broke the fucking camel's back. Nope, cannot abide it. The Lord doesn't like it. It's terrible. Don't want to see it. You guys are wrong. And she's just like saying all this like to her, like apparently me saying this is our stop in the way that I sound, and I know, like it's fine. You guys are in on it. We're all friends here. Was too much. So anyway, my point is, every time I get asked to do one of these shows, I start thinking about my history and my life with San Francisco, and which brings me back to cycling. Right? It's obvious. Recently, and by recently I mean I was asked on last Sunday to do this show. I said, I got to start thinking of another Muni story. And a lot of my friends have been like, aren't you out of them by now? Like, you've done probably 47 stints at Muni Diaries. Like, before the blog was formed, you were here. And the great thing about Muni is that it evolves with you, in that it doesn't evolve at all. Like, if anybody has lived here longer than 5 years, you will never run out of Muni stories. Because Muni is, and why it's so special, is it is a constant, and it is a equalizer. And anyone who gets on Muni, it is patiently waiting to host you, basically. But the thing it doesn't reveal to you is that it is patiently waiting to host 700,000 other people. And that's what makes it so special. So when people say, oh, you've been riding your bike a lot lately, are you ever gonna run out of Muni stories? I don't think so. And I also don't think that Muni cares. I'm riding my bike, great. Muni's waiting patiently for me to board it again and to expose everything that San Francisco has to offer to me, and to be probably the most stable relationship that I've ever been in so far. Remains to be seen, but fingers crossed, you know? Thank you.